Hi, I'm Steve Strinden. I'd like to speak to you about foundation. Let me start with a Bible verse, a verse familiar to all of us. This is Matthew 6, verse 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. You know, I worry about things. It's funny, but I only worry about things that are important to me. I worry about all of it. I worried when I heard Chris tell that 80% of our finances were given by 20% of our congregants. But when I think about it, that makes perfect sense. That's the story of Cheryl's my giving. When we were young and newly married, we would living from paycheck to paycheck, praying that a crisis never occurred. Sunday morning when we came to church, we found something to put in the offering plate. Admittedly, it was often a pittance, but we found something. But you know, we get older, we go through the stages of life, work gets different, money becomes somewhat easier, we can increasingly give things to the church. And we've reached the stage of life now where I think we are in the 20% of people. It's hard to tell because we don't report to each other how much each of us is giving to the church, but if I'm not in that 20%, Chris needs to have words with me because I should be. You know, look around you when you're in church, and you'll see the same people that you see every Sunday. We each have our own places that we sit in church. My seat is up in the choir loft, the third row, singing tenor. It's a great spot to watch the activities of the church, not just on any given week, but from time to time over the years. And if the pastors want to know who's in church, they don't need to take attendance. They just need to look and see which pews are occupied, which pews are not occupied. And over the years, watching the church from my loft up in the choir, I all too often have seen pews become empty as we've lost saints of our church. And very often I say, that's a loss we can't afford. But you know, people step up. The work to the church gets done. People are going to different stages of life. We can increase our contributions to the church, and we take care of all of it. But I have mentioned that I worry about all of it. We've lost attendance to COVID, and we've not completely recovered. And I read surveys that say a decreasing number of Americans are going to church as time goes on. So I worry that if we're losing members and we're losing percentage of people going to church, are we going to have more and more difficulty maintaining our church? I figured out how to address my responsibility for that. Some time ago, a young gentleman from Tracy sits over there, from Tracy's law firm gave us a presentation on estate planning, and I took the opportunity to look at my will. There were two considerations in my will. One was to assure custody of my children so that I knew my children were taken care of. Two was to make sure that any financial resources I had were applied to assure my children's welfare. Well, my children are 35 and 40. They have their families, they've been educated, they have jobs, they have homes of their own, they're making plans of their own. I clearly don't need to worry about custody of my children. And as far as financial resources, well, thank goodness there's considerably more than there was 35 years ago. So it's an interesting exercise to sit down with an estate planner and put down on paper what things are important to you. The first question is easy. When something happens to me, everything I have, everything is devoted to Cheryl's welfare and happiness. There is no other consideration. Sorry, church. When both of us are gone, my assets will be divided between my children and their families. I can make life a little easier for them. I can assure that my children and grandchildren can get educated. I can make their retirement a little easier. But I decided they don't need everything. So I've taken a piece of that and set it aside and said, this is all of it. And as a vehicle to give that to all of it, I'm going to give it to the foundation. The foundation will invest the money. Hopefully, over time, it will grow. And every year, a percentage of that will be given to the church to be applied to the church's programs. And I can almost maintain my current level of pledged giving forever. So I have a couple of questions. Do you have a will? Have you done your estate planning? If not, get together with an expert. You want to make the decision of what you want done with your assets. Don't let some bureaucrat in Bismarck or St. Paul make those decisions for you. If you have done your planning, is it current or is it like mine, so outdated that it's pretty much useless? If you have current estate planning and it's all up to date, well, good for you. You're better than I was. Now, if you need to do your estate planning, or if you need to upgrade your estate planning, make it current, will you consider a gift to Olivet in your estate planning? If you have done your estate planning, does it include a gift for Olivet? If it does not, will you consider revising it to leave something for Olivet? So I started with a Bible verse. Let me paraphrase Christ's words. Where your heart is, your treasure will follow. And I'm guessing that you are not a lot unlike me. I'm guessing that when you look into your heart and you see the things that are important to you, one of those things that you see is Olivet.